Hello and welcome to the Becoming Your Highest Self podcast. I'm your host, Macie Renae, and we are going on a journey together, my friend. If you've been looking for a podcast geared towards your growth, self-awareness, navigating your brain's daily mind drama, and deep inner work to become your highest and best self, you are in the perfect place. Let's get started. Hey guys, welcome to episode 1 of Becoming Your Highest Self podcast. I am so very excited to have you here. A little bit nervous. This is a completely new experience for me. I have never done anything like this. So I would love some grace, but also some honest feedback. We're going to be talking a lot of, real talk here. And a lot of it will be based off of what my transformation has been, in my personal development journey and working with a life coach for the last 3 years, different life coaches at that. So a lot of different perspectives, mindset, strategy, spirituality, all of that. And then my own work as a life coach, but also just diving in to really get to know myself. And that is why I wanted to create this podcast, because I feel like there is such a need for people to have a resource they can go to when they want to grow and expand and maybe hear some new principles and concepts. And the concepts that we'll be talking about here are all about you evolving to what I call, and what many people call, your highest self. And what that means is essentially like all tied together, wrapped in a bow, is becoming your highest self just means growing into that version really of who you already are deep in your core, right? But finding that version of yourself where you are your most authentic, truest, best self. It's really like what I think of, it's really like us meeting ourselves. And it's been a very powerful thing ever since I learned this concept, probably about 3 years ago from my coach, just about stepping into the woman that I'm capable of being rather than playing small because of, my fears or circumstances or past traumas. Just really knowing that there's a fire in my belly and there's more to me than what maybe people see on the outside. And, just getting to know who I am and really pushing myself to be the best version that I can. That is what I think of when I'm thinking, okay, become your highest self. Like, do the things that scare you, do the things that you desire in life. And if you're not doing those things, you just have not accessed all of those strengths and pieces that are already inside of you. So this podcast is really geared towards that, of giving you concepts and teachings from the coaching industry and personal development. And before we do that, I'll just kind of introduce myself. So my name is Macie Renae. That is my first and middle name. I am married to my high school sweetheart. We have a little 3-pound feisty, sassy little boy Yorkie who is just... He's a mess. He keeps us busy. He is so sassy. If you were to meet him, you would think he's not that friendly because he's just in protective mode of those that he loves the most. And my background, actually, I went to college to become a pediatric occupational therapist and work with birth to age 3 kiddos. And while I do love that, I could feel in me this greater calling. Like, I was talking to a friend yesterday that I just love so much, and we were talking about pivotal moments that we remember having together. And I was telling her, I said, I remember when I was like 8 weeks away from having my master's degree in occupational therapy and having the earth-shattering realization that that wasn't what I was going to be doing the rest of my life, and not knowing what it was going to be that I wanted to do, or, what my purpose actually felt like. But I just knew it's so sad, but like 8 weeks, of like all this money spent, all of this time invested, and just having that feeling in my gut of like, yeah, I could probably do this for a while, and I'm sure that I would love it, and I'm going to love the kids, but this is just not what I want to do forever. And I have always felt an entrepreneurial spirit in me, but fear is so real, you guys. That's kind of what we're going to be diving into in this podcast, is overcoming a lot of the stuff that holds us back in life. And in 2018 that I officially launched my coaching business after a lot of exploring other things that I thought I wanted to do, and then those things not being what I wanted to do after trying them. And so if people who are listening to this know me and have followed me for a while, they've seen such a turn of events, so many different things where I've put myself out there and said, this is what I'm going to do. And then, I did it for a while and I'm like, okay, this is not what I wanted to do. And finally I landed on what really energizes me and sets my soul on fire. And that is being a life coach for women. And, having a podcast was something that, it's just kind of crazy sitting in here recording it, because it's like, for me, I was like, having a podcast would be nice, but I just don't know if I'm that person, right? But this is where becoming your highest self comes into play, because, I ask myself the question often, who would I be without the thought I can't do that? Or, what do I really want to be doing? Like if I knew that I was supported and I knew I couldn't fail, even though failure is inevitable, what would I be doing? And one of those answers was you would have a podcast. And I ordered this podcast equipment, no joke, probably like 4 weeks ago. And I'm just now getting to the point where I'm sitting down and legit recording an episode, because I had so many thoughts getting in the way. Like, what if the sound quality is not good? What program do I need to use? Is this the right microphone? Do I have all of the equipment? I'm too tired today. I'm too this today. And I just finally realized, like you can probably even hear, I'm recovering from like a cold. And I just decided just to come in here and record it anyway, because messy action is better than no action. And, I asked myself what would I do as my highest and best self? I would just go get it done. I would just get my message out in the world. And I'm sure somebody needs to hear that. There might be somebody who listens to this podcast and thinks, gosh, there's so much that I need to get done and so much I want to do. And, you might find that you're not doing it. And that's your current self. It's like the brain seeks comfort so much that it's just going to let you live with all of those excuses, because that feels easier. So when we're talking highest self, it's about saying like, okay, if I was already the woman that I wanted to be, or the man that I wanted to be, if there's any guy listeners out there, what would I be doing? And if I had the life that I desire and the life that I visualize in my mind, I would just be doing the podcast. And so here I am. So welcome. I'm really excited to have you all here, and just am very, very grateful for this journey that we're about to begin. But back to a little bit more about me. So I finished school and I've been working with the birth to age 3 population. I absolutely love them. And the days that I feel most energized are the days whenever I'm able to talk to parents and just kind of coach them through some things, and I just really believe that we are so full of untapped potential that a lot of us don't even access, because we have every reason, every excuse why we can't. And we place these self-imposed limits on ourselves and tell ourselves it's not possible. When in reality, anything that you tell your brain, it can do if you will just allow yourself to get there. And so this podcast really comes from my own transformation and looking back 5 years ago, I was a completely different person, you guys, like completely different. I was very much, and I didn't feel like I was a negative person. Like I would think on the outside looking in, most people would say she's very positive and she's very happy. But at the same time, a lot of people don't know what's going on behind closed doors, right? Like you hear that all the time. Like, people think the grass is always greener on the other side and they have their life all together and they're doing all the great things. And on the outside looking in, it probably really did look like that for my life. But the big thing is, it wasn't the truth. It was not my reality. I was being a victim to my circumstances in more ways than I thought. And I was letting things that had happened in the past really eat me up inside. And, I was letting fear hold me back from the things that I really wanted. And I could dream all day long. I've always been an excellent dreamer and visualizer. And I've always really known what I want in my life. But I didn't know how to step into the person that could do it, because growing up, when I would share these visions with my, great grandparents at the time and my grandparents, it was like, okay, well, they never had any college background or not, a whole lot of continuing education or schooling. And so they thought success meant go to college, graduate, and get a job. And if it's in healthcare, that's success. And so that's what I was taught growing up. So that's what I did. And when I realized getting, close to being done with school, that actually was not going to be the route that I was going to take to reach my dream life, I was like, okay, something has to shift. And so you'll learn more about me in this podcast, but I went really on a journey of highs and lows and, different chapters, I guess you could say, where I joined, businesses and then, hit low points and then had really great points and hit these peaks. And then all of a sudden things would crash again. And then I met my life coach and that just shifted everything for me. And I have just never been the same person since I was introduced to the world of personal development, I think 4.5, almost 5 years ago. So I'm excited to bring you guys this podcast and just share with you nuggets and wisdom and things that have really helped transform my life. And I hope that by listening to this podcast, you will be able to turn inward, really just have some self-awareness and self-exploration in getting to know yourself, hearing new things that maybe spark some, shifts and change for you, and that you're able to become your highest self. So thank you for being here with me today, and I will see you guys on the next episode.